So I was at an event the other day, and I was there enjoying the event, and I saw a lightsaber on sale. And I'm like, okay, a lightsaber was pretty cool. I gotta try this out. So I picked it up, held the hilt in my hand, and I'm like, whoa, the hilt has weight to it. I turn it on, and it makes that, that sound as it turns on. And it was just like, this is so sick. But then, as I moved my wrist, the lightsaber made whooshing noises. It's like, vroom, 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 vroom. I seriously, I was in love. I'm like, oh my God, I have to have this. And I asked the guy, how much is it? And he's like, it's $600. I'm like, what? $600? I can't afford that. That's crazy. I cannot spend that much on a lightsaber. As much as I really want this lightsaber, I can't spend $600 on it. And so I left the booth, and I was kind of walking around the event and hoping that thinking about it, I'm like, maybe I could spend $600 on a lightsaber. I mean, like, I could, I guess, but like, oh, that's so expensive, but it's so cool though. But like $600, I don't know. And like, man, like, and when I tell you, like, I really want a lightsaber, I mean, I have wanted a lightsaber since I was like 4 years old. There was this time I was with my dad, and him and we went over to this his friend's house. And his friend was pretty like young. He was like, I don't know. My dad was older. It was like friends of the family. So the friend was, I think, maybe like 23, 22 at the time. My dad was roughly around the age too. Like I was 4. And we go over to his house, and he's like, oh, I gotta show you guys something. And so he shuts off all the lights. And like, I'm 4, and I'm like, suddenly I'm spooked. I'm like, why are all the lights off? And then here's this glowing green light emits from the back of the room, and it's making all these sound effects, and it's whooshing around, and I'm like just mesmerized by this lightsaber he is displaying and showing off. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. As a kid, I just thought this is the coolest thing ever. I didn't even know what Star Wars was. I had no idea what Star Wars was. I think this was actually my very first introduction to Star Wars. Which is probably one of the most badass ways you could ever be introduced to Star Wars. Super dark room, lightsaber ignites. God, it's so cinematic. But man, the second introduction, I guess, the actual second introduction is when I saw a picture of Darth Maul on a cardboard store display stand that must have been selling like Cadbury eggs. I don't know. It was something like that. I just remember seeing Darth Maul and being very, very scared of the picture of Darth Maul. And then there was a picture of Anakin Skywalker where he was in the pod racing. So I got introduced to Star Wars around the prequels. I was not there for the original masterpieces that were 4, 5, 6. However, I consider the prequels themselves masterpieces as well. Although many people will disagree with me, I love them. But that was my first introduction to a lightsaber and Star Wars. And I still remember to this day very vividly, and it just being one of the most awe-inspiring moments I had as a kid. And I just was like, I want it so bad. Please, Dad, can we get one? And I remember my dad asking his friend the price, and his friend said the price, and my dad's like, yeah, sorry, we're not getting a lightsaber, it's too expensive. I was so sad. But I never forgot that moment. I totally remember it, and I remember wanting to watch Star Wars for so long, but I wasn't allowed to because it was pretty violent. It wasn't like horrific violence, but like, yeah, they were like, chopping people's limbs off with a lightsaber. So, my parents had decided, that I could watch it maybe when I'm older. So I didn't actually get to watch Star Wars till I was like 10. And when I did get to watch it, man, did I ever love it so much. My favorite episode to this day is still episode 5. Though I love 1, 2, and 3, I would say number 2 would probably be a very close second. The Clone Wars were just so dope. But man, I have wanted a lightsaber for so long. From like having playing Lego Star Wars and like using the lightsaber in Lego Star Wars, to playing Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast, where you can actually delimb the stormtroopers, and into playing the Force Unleashed, playing a Star Killer. Like, there was so many awesome Star Wars games out there. I haven't played many of the new ones, but I still love the franchise so much, even though what Disney has done to it is atrocious and horrible, and I will never forgive them for it. They did make Rogue One, which was pretty good. Anyway, I completely digress. So I was like at the event, and I'm like, okay, can I justify $600 for this lightsaber? And I'm like, I ended up leaving the event and saying, no, I can't. It's just too expensive. And I was kind of bummed out because it looked so cool. It like sounded awesome. And I was just like, man, this is just, I was bummed. I was like, I could have bought it for $600 there. I actually could have, but I was just like, it's just not a good buy for me right now. Maybe one day down the road I can drop $600 on a lightsaber, which I probably will one day down the road when I can afford to do that. But right now I can't. But man, so I went home that day, and I was a little bit bummed out about it. But then the next day I was thinking, like, man, maybe I should go back and go buy it. Like, it would just, I've always wanted one since I was a kid. Like, it was just so dope. And so anyway, I started looking online. I started looking at AliExpress. I'm like, can I get some cheap Chinese knockoff lightsaber? Like, will that satisfy me? So I found a couple that were way cheaper on AliExpress. Actually, there was like a few lightsabers that were $300. So then I was like, okay, well, $300 isn't $600. I could maybe buy that. It's still kind of expensive though. Like, I don't know if I'm really going to buy this lightsaber. I don't know. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll do one last check. I'll check Amazon.com. And I checked it, and lo and behold, was a lightsaber for $100 that was pretty much identical to the one I had tried at the booth at the event. And I was like, okay, it's not the best lightsaber, but it is the mid-range one, and I can afford $100. I can afford $100. Should I spend $100 on this lightsaber? Probably not. But am I going to? Yes, I am going to. So I ordered it. A week later, it shows up at my doorstep, and it was one of the best purchases I've ever bought. I have already had so much fun with this thing. I am actually, the only thing I am sad about is that I don't know anyone else with a lightsaber, and I would love to have a lightsaber duel with them. That would be like one of the best things. I would love to do that. But anyway, I digress. I bought it, and I've been using it. I've probably gotten at least an hour's worth out of use just twirling this thing around in my room, and like accidentally letting it fly out of my hand and crash into whatever obstacle happens to be in the path. Hopefully I haven't chipped any walls or anything yet, or will be doing that. But yeah, I love it. It's great. It's amazing. And I kind of wanted to make this video because I just thought, when we're kids, there's things like, as we become adults and we get older, we think about like who we are now as an adult. And there's so many things when you're an adult you have to take care of. There's responsibilities, there's accountability, there's, just trying to get by day to day and like working on your job or your hobbies or whatever it is, that we can kind of forget about that child in ourselves that, used to once love something and see the world in such a wonderful, exciting, beautiful way. And that childhood wonder sometimes feels like it's a bit lost. And we've gotten far away from that. And I guess I wanted to make this video because I thought, if there is something in your life that would bring you tremendous joy, and maybe it's a bit of an expense that's not like you can justify for productivity or justify for, reinvesting in yourself, because it can be like that way. Some ways, you got bills to pay, you got the grocery bill and the electric bill and the rent and everything. It can just kind of add up. So you feel like, I can't spend any money on like yourself anymore. You just feel like you're always, spending it on bills. And, it's okay to spend a little bit on yourself, especially if it's on that, if it's for that childhood version of you that, if you were a kid, you would have loved that thing and you wish you had it. And I'm not saying, go break your bank or make a bad purchase that would like, hurt you financially. That's not what I'm advocating for. You still got to be wise about, the money you spend and when you spend it. But, if there is something you've been kind of holding back for a while from spending and you can buy it and it's not going to hurt you, like you can justify the expense and that's okay, maybe it's worth getting. Because, you know, when you were a kid, you know, you might have had that thought like, oh, when I'm an adult, I'm going to be able to do all these different things. You know, I'm going to be able to eat all the junk food I want. I'm going to be able to play all the video games I want. I'm going to just do whatever I want because I'm an adult now. And then you get to adulthood. You're like, oh man, youth. If I ate all that candy, my teeth would rot. And if I played all those video games, I'd never get anything done, nor would have a job. If I didn't have a job, I have no money to buy food. So unfortunately, that's just the world we live in. But it doesn't mean that you still can't take care of that kid inside of you. And you know, if there's something like a lightsaber, for example, that you really want, or whatever it is, you know, if you think it would bring you a lot of joy and happiness, especially for that kid inside of you, it might be worth doing. But like I said, still be wise with your money. Don't make a decision that would hurt you financially or put you in a bad financial spot. Only do it if you can do it. Because it can be easy in that way to, you know, justify all your funds for just bills and productivity. But yeah, there's still the child in you that needs love too. So yeah, I do not regret buying a $100 lightsaber. Would I have regretted buying a $600 lightsaber? Probably right now. Yeah, I would have, because that would have been pretty expensive and a little bit too much for me. But like down the road, when I can totally afford it and it's not going to be a hit anymore, I might buy the $1,000 lightsaber, but not right now. I can't afford that right now, and that's not going to happen. So yeah, wisdom prevailed, thankfully. But yeah, the $100, it was totally worth it. I'm so glad about it. I've had so much fun with it already. It felt like it just lit up the kid inside of me once again, and I just had a blast with it. So one of the better purchases I made in recent years that I'm really grateful to have made. So anyway, yeah. I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you in the next one. Zen out.